Marco! Hi! Welcome back to my Chanel. My name is Isis, and you've just dropped in on Marco Polo, a part of my Living Single diaries. Drum roll, please! Finally, we are here! Welcome to the quarterly book tag, the first one of 2024. It may be May 1st. We may be in the middle of Q2, but better late than never. We are still going to do the Q1 book tag. So for the year 2024, I set myself a personal goal to read 24 books this year. That is 2 books a month. And if we break that down by the quarter, that is 6 books per 3 months. And so the idea behind my quarterly book tags, if it's not straightforward enough, every quarter we're going to drop in and review my progress and also review the books themselves. I'm really looking forward to this. This is me, pretending like I'm a book talker for, just 4 times a year. And it's an insight into one of my hobbies. I really do enjoy reading. This is a part of my life. Every now and then you'll catch me reading in a vlog, but it's not something that's like a constant. But know that it is constantly happening. Now, what's going to be interesting is me learning how to put in like an image, because I want to put in the book covers of the books that I'm reading. I have some of the physical copies, but I listen to audiobooks, and so I don't have physical copies of every book that I'm going to complete. Additionally, I just need to learn how to be a better editor in, Adobe Premiere Pro overall. And when I say I only know the basics, I only know the basics. I don't even know how to insert a picture. So I'm gonna learn today, because there's no way that I'm just not gonna insert the picture of the book. The first book I read this year was Sister Samurai, which I rated 4.75 stars. This was an amazing read. It's a novella. It's really short. It was only like 120 pages. Barely. It all takes place in the course of one day, and it's a story about a samurai, a sister samurai, just trying to run her errands, mind her business, get her things so that she can get home and rest her feet. But no, everyone keeps interrupting her day. She keeps getting sidetracked. She keeps having to help people, and she keeps being bothered. Relatable. Sister Samurai by Tatiana Obey. I apologize, I did not give you the author's name. It's such a slice of life book, even though it's set in this fantasy land with demons and sister samurais and brother monks. Each chapter is named after a song, so the book came with a Spotify playlist for you to listen to as you read the book, which really set the scene, and I really appreciated that. There's just so much care that was poured into this novella by Tatiana, and I see it, I feel it, I appreciate it. The second book that I read was The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. It is the first book in a trilogy, and I rated this book a 4.5 stars out of 5. The Poppy War is a grimdark fantasy that draws its plot and politics from mid-20th century China, with a conflict in the novel based on the Second Sino-Japanese War and an atmosphere inspired by the Song Dynasty. The sequel, The Dragon Republic, and the third book, The Burning God, completes the trilogy. So I've only read the first book out of the trilogy before the year is over. I would like to complete the trilogy. Like I said, this is a 4.5 star read for me. I really enjoyed this book. I remember once I got into it, once I really got going, I could not put it down. There's just simply been other books that I've been reading. That's the only reason I haven't gotten to the second book yet. And also, these books are pretty beefy. It's a fantasy book, and fantasy books are ginormous commitments. Last year I read the Mistborn trilogy, and I really enjoy those. But I am enjoying just one book of the Poppy War even more than all three of those books. So that's really exciting. And just now, I'm really just having the thought process of, yeah, I really want to finish this trilogy by the end of the year so that next year I can start up a new trilogy. I do like series, but I'm finding that my own natural pace of life causes me to space out me reading those trilogies. So food for thought for me. The third book that I read this year was The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern, and I rated this book a 3.75 stars out of 5. Let's talk about it. So, The Starless Sea. After finding a mysterious library book that depicts a moment from his childhood, Zachary is drawn into a fantastical world of the underground Starless Sea and its harbors that contain every story ever told. That's the basic premise of the book. I picked up this book because the author, Erin Morgenstern, actually wrote my favorite book ever, which is The Night Circus. I reread it every year. This year will be no different. I reread it every year in the fall because it definitely gives fall ambiance vibes. And let's briefly talk about The Night Circus. I don't want to detour too much, but The Night Circus is a book about characters. It is not a book about plot. It jumps all over the place with the time periods. It's kind of like a series of stories stringed together. Like, I know how this writer writes. I would never just blindly recommend The Night Circus. Like, it's a very particular taste book. Either you're gonna like it or you're not. So all this to say, I do know her writing style and what I'm getting into, and I had high hopes for this book because I liked her first book so much. And in reading The Starless Sea, I gave it a 3.75 stars because I had to dock it. I couldn't give it the 4. This book is a wonderful bedtime story. Like, all the mini stories that are told in the in-between, it sounds like a lullaby. I listened to this book on tape, and I could not listen to it before bed because I always ended up drifting off to sleep. And if I look at it through that very specific lens, it's a beautiful book. Erin Morgenstern has wonderful prose, and she knows how to tell a story. But the plot... And hear me when I say I wasn't expecting much of plot out of her. The Night Circus doesn't carry much, but it still carries some. Read the book if you wish. I'd say if you're going to read one of her books, read The Night Circus. But yes, it still was an enjoyable read. That's what I want you to take out of it. Especially for me, like I said, wonderful bedtime stories. Now, the next book that I read in the first quarter of the year, it's a love song for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. 10 stars out of 5. Best book I've read in such a long time. Best reading experience I've had. I haven't had a reading experience this great since about what? How many years was that now? Like 4 or 5 years ago when I read The Night Circus for the first time. Like, this book is up here. Just like I reread The Night Circus every year, I'm going to reread this book every year. I want to reread it in August on my birthday trip, but I will probably reread this book every year in February. This book takes place in February, and so it's the perfect time of year to read this story. Go read it. Go read it. Like, what's a plot summary? I can't give the plot justice. I just have to... Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, holding this book is it's bringing back so many good feelings. Okay. Ricky Wilde has many talents, but being a Wilde isn't one of them. As the impulsive, artistic daughter of a powerful Atlanta dynasty, she is the opposite of her famous socialite sisters. Where they are strong, long-stemmed roses, she is a dandelion, an adorable bloom that is actually a weed, born to float wherever the wind blows. In her bones, Ricky knows that somewhere a different, more exciting life awaits her. When a regal, agrarian Miss Della invites her to rent the bottom floor of her Harlem brownstone, Ricky jumps at the chance for a fresh beginning. She leaves behind her family, wealth, and chaotic romantic decisions to realize her decision of opening a flower shop in New York City. And just beneath the surface of her new neighborhood, the music, stories, and dazzling drama of the Harlem Renaissance still simmers. One evening in February, as the heady, curiously off-season scent of night-blooming jasmine fills the air, Ricky encounters a handsome, deeply mysterious stranger who knocks her world off balance in the most unexpected way. Set against the backdrop of contemporary Harlem in 1920s decadence, A Love Song for Ricky Wilde is a modern-day fairy tale of two passionate artists drawn to the magic and romance of New York, and whose lives are irreversibly linked. I caught some of my reading experience in this vlog. It's actually this vlog here. I think this was entry 4. I know the title of that vlog is A Love Song for Isis. Get it? But it was a very spoiler-free, talk. And as far as my book tags go, I want to keep them relatively spoiler-free. I'm clearly expressing my opinions, but I do want to keep them relatively spoiler-free. So stay tuned, because in August, around my birthday, I will be rereading this book. And I will not keep it spoiler free. I have to talk. And I can't even begin thinking about talking about this book right now, because I'm just gonna go off on tangents and lose the plot myself. Okay? I cannot coherently speak about this book. It's been way too long since I've read it. And so we're just gonna save this until August. And it's gonna be so much fun. Okay, let's talk about this one. The next book I read this year was This Hoe Got Roaches in the Crib by Quan Mills. This was a book club reading. Now, I joined my social group on March 1st, and the book club meeting for the previous month was on March 2nd. So clearly I wasn't in the book club. I didn't participate, and it just looked like a good time. I don't even know what book they read. And it looked like the book club gathering also doubled as a baby shower of sorts. It was super cute. And so when they announced the next book on March 5th, I was like, what? The only reason I picked it up is because it was short. Okay? And it was a read. I briefly talked about this in entry 6 because we had our book club meeting in the middle of April. Ain't nothing really to talk about. I rated this book. I didn't give you my rating. I rated this book 2.9 stars. I rated it 2.9 stars. And according to my book club members, that was too high. They chose this book because they thought it was going to be satire, but it was the furthest thing from satire. And then we had a pretty interesting conversation about the author himself and his choices and how he's approached writing and publishing his series of books, because this book is a part of a series. It was giving American Fiction. It was giving Erasure, which is the book that American Fiction was based upon. And not in a good way. In a bad way. So yeah, if you're down for something interesting, go watch American Fiction. You can read Erasure if you'd like. I haven't read it. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like I have. And then you can go read This Hoe Got Roaches in the Crib, and then you can look up the backstory of Quan Mills, and you're gonna be like, that's a little sus. The last book that I read this quarter was Black Buck by Mateo Amalpour. I may be saying his last name wrong. I rated this book 3.9 out of 5 stars. Let's talk about it. For the fans of Sorry to Bother You and The Wolf of Wall Street, a blazing satirical debut novel about a young man given a shot of stardom as the lone black salesman at a mysterious cult-like and wildly successful startup where nothing is as it seems. I've been hearing about this book for years. A young black man gets an opportunity at a sales company to be a sales agent. He climbs the ranks very quickly. He is very good at what he does. The story follows him in this particular opportunity and his choices and where his life takes him as a result of his choices. I did like the read. It was very intellectually stimulating. It made me question myself and how I handle myself in the workplace and just out in the world whenever I'm not in the safe space of my people. That's going to be a wrap on my first quarterly book talk. This was an interesting experience. I didn't really think through how I was going to structure this video. Fault to me, I suppose. And so I was like, do I give book summaries? I know I don't want to give too many spoilers, and how do I summarize a book? Should I just read the summary on the back of the page, which I did sometimes, or should I just talk about how I feel about the book? And then like in some instances, like the Poppy War, I recorded that Poppy War segment so many times, but the thing is, I have so many thoughts about that book, so many good thoughts about that book. I really enjoyed it, but I also read it back in January. There are things that I don't remember, and go back to the summary of that book. I am not qualified to talk about ancient Chinese history, and while I enjoyed it and while it was a great backdrop to a wonderful story, that was mostly due to my ignorance. Like, I learned so much reading this book. I found myself Googling real world Chinese history to catch up. There were no DNFs in my book or did not finish. I enjoyed every book I read, even These Hoes Got Roaches in the Crib. I mean, I didn't enjoy it as much as the others, but it made me chuckle. I had one of the best reading experiences in years, and I found a good bedtime story. I will still put on the audiobook for The Starless Sea to lull me off to sleep. It doesn't work all the time, but sometimes it's just what I need. And with that, this is a wrap, and I'll see you guys later. Polo.